hi everyone, and welcome to this week's energy forecast. Hi Denny.
Hi Fee, hi everyone.
And this is from the week, well, what are we today? We're the 17th today, so going from the 17th until, whatever that is, a week from now. I'm not really sure what day. Think about that, won't it? 23rd, around that time. So yeah, and we're sort of currently in week 20 of 2021. And so with this week 20, we're actually entering into a 10-week cycle where the numerology each week focuses on the week numbers 20 to 29. So we're actually entering this sort of 10-week cycle of two energies. So therefore the underlying energies of the coming weeks are going to hold a lot of that two archetypal influences. So we're already, of course, experiencing this in some way because we're going through the millennium of the 2000. And it's going to be a day like that today because for some reason I keep mixing up my words and saying things wrong. So bear with me on that one. I don't know what's going on there. So for the next few weeks, you're probably going to notice, I think, this archetype, the two energy, weaving its way more consciously into your awareness. So two really represents interconnection. That's one of the biggest kind of defining aspects of this two energy and allows you to really understand the concept that everything is connected. So it may therefore bring into your awareness how much your choices affect other people, or even how your words when you speak will be received by others. So it's all about connection and how you can deepen your connection with other people. So this can often raise questions within around how you may need to change how you're communicating with people to get a deeper connection with them. It's that sort of inner inquiry around that. The archetype of two constantly creates awareness of the relational field and brings your focus to your relationship with other people. So, you know, we're going to really, I think, over the next few weeks, but particularly this week as we sort of dive into this two energy, really notice our relationship with others, how we show up in relationship to other people. And two also brings you into your feminine energy. It's the number of the feminine. So it's the archetype of the Mother Earth, of sensitivity, of equality and patience. So those are overriding energies that will surface, I think, over the next few weeks as well. And you may feel that energy quite strongly this week, as it feels as if you can almost, I feel at the moment, like you can take a breath, hit the pause button for a few days as we journey through May and the interesting energies that have been unfolding. It kind of feels like, especially the beginning of this week, maybe the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to feel like we're sitting in a bit of a pause, hit that pause button and just kind of take a breath. And just maybe feel a little more gentle and more caring towards yourself as we sit in that space. But of course, we're also experiencing the energies of the month of May and the concentration of that 5 energy I was probably speaking about last week or the week before. 5 energy doubled this month because it's a 5 month in a universal 5 year. So that brings double 5 archetypes into play, which is also related to the archetype of 1 when we add those two together. And 1 represents the masculine. So it feels very much as if during the next few weeks, you're going to be drawn to focus on your inner balance of your masculine and feminine energies. And I think we've talked about that a little bit as well over the last couple of weeks. But this week in particular, because we're moving into that 2 energy for the next sort of 10-week cycle, we're really going to be drawn to this week, I think, paying attention to our own personal inner balance between the flow of our masculine and feminine energies. And as we enter that 10-week cycle, the archetype 2 is going to be where you really feel that your focus is guided towards self, being that number one energy, you know, being the energy of the individual, really. That's all the one energy. And notice whether you're struggling in any way to find balance within yourself, because you may be too focused in your masculine energy. So this is an invitation really to explore that within yourself. The energy of one will really struggle to find inner balance because it doesn't have anything to compare itself with. When we're showing up in that one energy, it's all about self, one, I, the I am. You can think of it really in terms of representing the I am self. And when you're ready to evolve, which of course is the times that we're in at the moment, we're evolving at a rapid pace at the moment, then the one energy will step into the two archetypes. So we'll step into that sense of finding our balance between who we are and how we show up and other people, and also our masculine and feminine energies. So we can view that a little bit through the lens of the millennium energies as well. You know, we think of the thousands in which we were mostly driven by our masculine energies, and how that has started to shift when we moved into the 2000s, as we start to balance that more with our feminine energies and bring those two into a better place within ourselves. And then we're experiencing all of this, of course, with the double five energies of May, which is all about change on a massive scale. I think, again, we talked about that last week. So change and chaos are two of the defining energies of that five archetype. And when you double that, there really is nowhere to hide. So, you know, change and chaos are the overriding energies of this month anyway. And we're really, with that energy, being shown the chaos that can unfold for us if we refuse to change, if we're going to stick in our old patterns and stay in our old, you know, stay making our old choices. So it's going to keep coming up in our life until we make new choices for ourselves. So we're still really working with the same energies, just a slight different reflection on them this week, as that two energy really heightens and comes into play along with those double five energies that we're working with in May. And then the card that I drew this week from the shamanic tarot, I will learn to speak properly. The shamanic tarot deck by Sue Kovacs was this one, which was perspective. And I kind of like this card straight away. Being a balanced person, I love anything to do with different perspectives and bringing everything into perspective, looking at all different ways of doing things. But this seemed to really, I think, to me, represent the energies of this week really well in terms of change. It feels like an invitation to look at things differently and to sort of take the opportunity, I think, this week to shift your perspective so that you can really let something go. You can really change something that you've been hanging on to maybe for way too long. It's showing you that new perspectives will remain without new perspectives, rather, you'll remain stuck in your old patterns and continue to keep making those same choices for yourself. So, you know, I think a good question to ask yourself this week is, how can I create a new perspective? How can I look at things differently? What new ideas can I take on board that I may have been resistant to, say, in the past? So how can I shift my perspective in some way? Or even what area of life can I start to look at with fresh eyes, maybe look at it through a different lens? So I think those are all good questions to sit with this week. I really love this card because I think it's an invitation for inner inquiry. And whenever we can go into inner inquiry, it's always a powerful way to shift something within ourselves. So that was the sort of card that I pulled. And then this morning I went into the Akasha to look at the energy for the collective for this week. And what I'm finding, it's quite interesting actually, as I go into the Akasha more and more with that intention, is that the messages are becoming kind of shorter and more direct, which is quite nice, rather than being too flowery and long. So this today, when I was asking about the energies of the coming week, I was shown that you're always in a state of flux, even when you don't realize that you are. So things can change quite subtly sometimes, but we're always constantly in that change, that sort of process of changing and moving. You're constantly evolving and changing. And sometimes this is so subtle that you're totally unaware of the changes deep within. And at other times, such as this, the time that we're in at the moment, you can feel those changes really consciously in your body. And that can be overwhelming sometimes, emotionally or mentally or even physically in your body. So resisting the change, I was shown, is only going to prolong the inevitable, because you cannot go back to who you were. The planet is evolving at a rapid pace, and you are being asked to keep up with her. She will no longer accept anything less from you. So it was quite a strong and beautiful message from the Akasha, but I kind of really liked it too. And that's me for today.
Beautiful. Uh, um, just to reflect on a couple of things that you said, I mean, the whole piece around communication, the whole piece of going from I am to this place of me to others as well. We're moving into Gemini, and it's funny because in my head I was thinking, how can I describe Gemini energy? And it was, I'm going to put it as we've been into Aries, and Taurus has very much been about me, and now we're meeting the other. So it's perfect, and it's also the place of communication. So and during this time in Gemini, will the Mercury, who's also in Gemini, home planet, Mercury moves into retrograde. So there's all kinds of interesting communication things that will be coming up going forward. And there was a little piece at the end where you're saying that was just so perfect. Oh, the big thing for me this morning, I've been diving into cycles, which is kind of where you're saying that we're in a state of flux, but we're always in a state of flux, but we're always in some other form of a cycle. And when we finish a cycle, we just begin a new one. It's just a new layer or a new level of the spiral. So that was all the interesting stuff that came up for me. I was saying to you earlier, Fee, that I feel like I've dived into a rabbit hole this morning as I started tuning into what I was going to speak today about. I just went into a rabbit hole that just went on a really interesting path. So I'll be interested to see how much of it I managed to speak. But first of all, I've been tuning into twins energy. I mean, twins have been coming up for me left, right, and center, which is so beautiful as we move this week from Taurus energy into the sign of the twins, Gemini. And with this, we have Mercury in Gemini, and we have Venus now in Gemini. And these two planets, Venus and Mercury, are known as the twins. And here they are sitting in the sign of the twins. They're almost like the brother and sister type energy, Venus and Mercury. And the sun is about to join them also in Gemini. So there's this whole energy around twins and this balance within self of this brother sister energy, or head, which is very much Mercury, and heart, which is very much Venus. So it's the bringing together of these two energies. I was listening one of the rabbit holes I went on was one of the astrology podcasts I listened to, which get into a little bit of the archetypal astrology. And the guy I was listening to spoke about Mercury being the planet that tunes you in to, and what Venus is what turns you on. So you're being tuned in to what turns you on, which I loved the meeting of those two places together, which is happening right now. So as I went down this rabbit hole of, okay, great, twins, Venus, Mercury, Gemini, I just started to go into all kinds of interesting places, with particularly Venus. I was really sort of shown, or I was looking at where Venus is right now. And Venus has just is now visible in the night sky. So I think I would have spoken about when Venus was conjunct with the sun at the beginning of the astrological year in Aries. So you couldn't see Venus because it was traveling. She was traveling with the sun, so it wasn't visible. She became a morning star, and now she's just gone into, now as the sun moves away, as Venus moves away from the sun, Venus becomes visible at the moment very low in the sky. As the sun's setting, you can see Venus. I hope I'm right with that. But definitely it's become a night star. Venus is now once again visible in the night star, and there's a lot around that. So I then dove into this place of Venus traveling with the moon, because now we get this place where there's 7 times over the next 7 months where Venus conjuncts with the moon, and they're known as the 7 gates. And we get 7 gates of descent, and we get 7 gates of ascent, and the 7 gates are known as the 7 chakras. And the myth around this is around Inanna, the goddess of the heavens, and her sister, and I hope I can pronounce it right, Ershkagel. And Ershkagel is the goddess of the underworld. And I think in many traditions you will get this story, but this is the one that I've actually been diving into lately. This descent of Inanna into the underworld. And as I say, she goes through 7 gates or her sister, once she knows she's coming to meet her in the underworld, her sister puts her through 7 gates, and at 7 gates she needs to strip back something. At each gate she needs to strip off something, and this is this beautiful place of us going into our own underworld and looking at places that maybe we don't like looking at, or that we try and cover or hide. It's that shadow place that I love playing in so much, and it's what is revealed once you strip off. What is those different layers of peeling back, making the unconscious conscious. That's basically the underworld, and that's going down. At the moment, as Venus becomes visible in the sky again, it's an ascent. We begin the ascent, and we've just come out of the first gate of ascent, so she goes from the crown down, and right now she's on her way back. So she's in the base chakra, and by June the 11th, she will go through the second gate, the sacral. So on that ascent back up. So it's almost like we have, I think as we've been speaking, we've talked about going into, because the Venus has been so big from Aries from the beginning of the year till now, it's been about what do you value, and really finding that place of what you value. And then it was about that stripping off so that you can really get to that place of what is it at the core. Well, we've gone through that now. We've stripped back. We've found out what we value. And now we're on the place of reclaiming the pieces of self on our way back up, to bring out into the world that vision, or that place of what we value and what we want to bring into the world. So that sort of feels the piece that story brought. and Venus today, because I'm thinking, why am I looking so much into Venus again? Today, Venus is conjunct with the North Node in Gemini. And the North Node is that place of purpose, our Dharma, what we're here to do. So the Venus, the planet of, what we value, is sitting right on top of what we bring into the world. So I love the fact that we've also gone into this ascent, and that we will pass through this next gate. It also is not lost on me that it's in the time of the eclipses, because when we hit the next gate, it's at the next solar eclipse. So we will go through a lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, and then we'll go through the solar eclipse on about the 10th or 11th of June. So these are all just these places of further uncovering, further bringing things to light. What does this all mean? So as I said, it's all about that, what you value. We've found that out. We're now going into making all those unconscious bits conscious and reclaiming those parts of self. What I love about that is as Venus moves away from the sun, it's almost like Venus is moving out of the shadow, which kind of works in the opposite way to how it normally works. But as a night star, it's actually the shadow of the sun that it's moving away from. And in some ways, we look at Earth as the mother and at the sun as the father. When I chose my two cards today, I chose once again the vision, which is this place of purpose, which I think I've chosen last time with maybe the heart, because I chose two today because Gemini is all about two things. So I felt like there needed to be two pieces to this. So it is this place of purpose, of moving towards what we value, and then putting it out into the world. And interesting enough, the second card I pulled was the king, the masculine, the sun, and how these two are together and maybe moving apart. And there's this piece of Venus being the queen or a nana. And it's interesting, I had a conversation with my daughter last night, and she just right out of the blue sort of said, why is the king always above the queen in everything? In cards, the king's worth more than the queen. And she was just going through all these examples of the king being more important than the queen. Which is such an interesting place today when I picked the king, because it feels like there is this place of the queen rising to be in an equal standing with the king. And it isn't about the queen being more important. It's about finding that balance, that place of those two places within self, which really speaks to where you were there, Fee, earlier. So that reclaiming of that place of the feminine that we've spoken about, that meets the king, doesn't override the king, but meets. So there can be this rulership of the kingdom together, and a place of realizing the vision from a place of balance. I often think of when you're putting something out into the world, something big out into the world, the piece that has been missing is that where the why. So why are we doing things? And we've been living in a world for the last 100 or hundreds of years where it's all been about doing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we've lost the reason why we are doing. So here we are in this planet of materialistic planet of things, and we've lost the core essence of why, and that's that reclaiming the queen to her seat, because she gives us the why. She comes from the heart. It's all about that place of what we value. And I think that's why Venus is coming up so strongly, because she needs to be there very much front and center right now to give us the why beneath it all, so that then the king can meet her and help realize that dream. So that's where I've come to over this. It always seems so much bigger than just a week when I'm speaking about it, but we're just in that part right now of the ascent. which is cool. You know, it feels like we've kind of done this, the diving down, and we're still in the underworld, so we're still there, and we've still got the eclipses to go through, so we're not out of the shadow world or the shadow realm yet. But there is this light that's come to our evening sky, in Venus, joining Mercury in our evening sky as well, in this place of balance. It feels good. It does feel like a little bit of a breath, but it's also we're in some work, and that's okay. We can do this. I'm speaking to myself now.
Yes.
I have my
Absolutely.
Venus in Gemini, so I'm feeling a lot of this
Mm.
within, as you know, it doesn't surprise me. And
Yeah,
you're moving into your I think tomorrow is your birthday, Fee.
it
So
is.
you've
Yeah.
got your sun right there on all of this as well.
Yeah. And thank you for all of that. There's beautiful, some lovely, beautiful reflections there on how we can view those energies differently as well. I love that one around the king and the queen, and that you know, I think at the moment that the two energy is also a lot about equality and balance as well. That's what that brings in. And speaking to that, I think what we're actually being asked to do is it's almost like we're on an invitation at the moment to really look at how we show up in both of these energies, you know, and how we can shift, because everything has changed now. The way that we work in the world is so different now than it was even a year ago or 2 years ago, and how we work with those energies is very different now. So we're constantly, as we're in this state of flux, we're constantly being asked to keep looking at those parts of ourselves, so that we can explore how we work with them differently. I know my whole kind of consciousness, my whole belief system around masculine energy has changed a lot this year. And that started when we were out in Uluru last year, and there was this whole thing that we went through around the masculine energy while we were journeying there with the women that we took out. And that really created this shift for me personally around my masculine energy and looking at myself differently and how I work with that energy. That has actually created quite a massive shift for me. But that shift in the way that message came through from the akasha, it sometimes was so subtle I didn't actually realize that it was shifting so much until now when I sit here and look back at it. So much. I mean, this is a big month. We know this and we've spoken to this, but so much of that has been, it's almost like we've been building up to this for quite a while. And it's going to be interesting. Like, we're only halfway through the month, really, just over halfway through. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And like everything, it's another one of those big cycles. When I look into Venus, she has so many different cycles, you know, to make that star that she forms, that 5-pointed star, and the flower. If you look at the way that she moves around the earth, it's also this beautiful flower that happens in the sky. There's so many cycles with just Venus, and we are right in the midst of one. But it's that way with every planet. There's so many cycles we're in.
Yeah.
But that's the one that seems to be big right now. Venus and Gemini, the twins, the meeting of those two places.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, another week.
Well, another week, tick that box and moving on. And I hope you all have a good week ahead. And if you have anything to share with us, please share it. We'd love to hear what the weeks are like for you as we go through them too.
Absolutely.